What's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? Once again, it is that time for another edition of the Dungeon Show, live and direct. And I am Frank Red. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you tonight. We're going to go for at least an hour, and we'll see what happens after that. What a great sports weekend leading up to Sunday night. And we're going to talk about everything that transpired, and we're also going to maybe touch on some things that we addressed Friday night when we did our last show. But I am really excited to have you join the program. As you know, if you have something to say, you can hit me up and comment. I've also put the streaming feed on there as well. Somebody's sharing enough, and, that's something to add to the program. Just hit that link, and I might let you on the program. So think about it. You don't have to, but if you feel like you might want to do that, then you can bring something to the show and make that happen. If not, then just check it out. Listen to the show, and I'll make it happen. All right, hit me up at Big Red on Twitter, and if you don't follow the show, that's a good way to stay in contact with me when I'm not doing shows. If you like, you follow me. I generally follow back unless things are crazy. And every now and then somebody will follow me, and I'm sure it's like a bot or something based on the content. So I don't follow that crap. But if you're a real person, you got something to say, if you agree with me or not, that really doesn't matter. I like to converse back and forth. All right, so we're going to talk about what took place in the NFL today. A lot of interesting games, and for Cowboy haters, it was literally meat on the grill for you. Based on what happened to them, they went to Arizona and laid a complete egg, 28-16. We got some time, we'll get into that. I was happy to see Deshaun Watson look like Deshaun Watson. They had a tremendous performance. They throttled the Titans 27-3, and I like to see people win. I don't know what it feels like to see people root openly for people to fail. I mean, what does that feel like? Imagine you trying to accomplish something, get your life together, and somebody is hating on you, hoping that you fail. What kind of energy is that? I don't get that. All right. We're going to talk about some key games in the NFL. If I don't talk about a game you're interested in talking about, then put that out there. And Brian's getting in the dungeon early. Really appreciate it. What's up? What's up, Frank? I thought the Ducks was between, but I didn't see that beatdown. Wow. Nah, that was awesome. That really was. And, I think we're actually going to start with that. And I'm going to say this. Dan Lanning is an excellent football coach. Knew they had a really, really good team. I didn't see the Colorado offensive line being a complete fit to the extent that Shakur didn't really have a chance. He really didn't. I didn't think Colorado would win, but I thought they would put on a better showing than that. Now, I'm going to start off with Dan Lanning. That was one of the best 16s that I've seen any coach in a long period of time. And I agree with everything that he said, except when he said that they're playing for clicks and we're playing for wins, and the game is not being played in Hollywood. I said to myself, okay, based on my knowledge, Colorado actually won those 3 games that they played. And it wasn't like they were playing Connecticut or one of those, divisional schools, Eastern Montana, Central State. No. They played TCU, right? At TCU. Last time I checked, TCU has won 3 straight games. They're a good football team. And guess what? TCU is going to, I think, be one of the top teams in the Big 12. And they're going to go to a bowl game. So that was a big-time win of Colorado. And I'm a big Matt Rule guy. Matt Rule's an excellent coach. He's the right guy at Nebraska. So they're good, too. They're going to handle their business. And you saw what Colorado State did last week. So, it's okay to pump your team up, but I wish he had had that same energy before the season started. Because they're good enough, and he's a good enough coach. And he got smacked the same way when he played Georgia, the first game of his coaching career. So he has all the right to do what he did. But I wanted to hear that energy at the beginning of the season. And I didn't see that. For all accounts, let's be honest, Oregon should be a top 10 team every year. When you got that Phil Knight battery in your back, you can throw a rock and hit Nike. That beautiful stadium, quality university. They got everything going, and they got some ballers up there. So it'll be interesting to see if they take this. Well, I think the quality winning. For example, Washington, Oregon beat USC. That should be a close game. But they got over on Colorado on Saturday. All props to them, props to their coach. And I think Coach Dion said as well. He was a little too hard on his players, but I get it. He didn't want those guys to feel sorry for themselves because they got to play USC this week, and they'll be outmanned again. They got to step up and they got to play. Brian says Colorado doesn't run the ball enough for my liking to compete with the top team. Yeah, you're right. And the reason why is they don't have an offensive line, right? I mean, if you're going to run the ball, you got to have some big boys up front that can not only pass block, but you got to be able to run block. They obviously have a they have a couple of good running backs against mediocre teams, but not against top 10 caliber teams. So if Colorado is going to be successful against some of the top of echelon teams in the Pac-12, and I don't even really know their schedule. I assume they play Washington, they play USC. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be because the offensive line is given more time to throw the ball down the field. And Travis Hunter is back playing the way that we all know that he can play. So that team that they put out there is not good enough against top-tier talent. Hello, Vicky. How you doing? Thank you. Stepping in. And looking forward to another one of your takes tonight. Yeah, there's a lot going on in college football, right? I'm a big college football fan. That Ohio State Notre Dame game, Notre Dame lost that game. And I know that their coach, what's Marvin's last name? Marcus Freeman, this dude literally built his career as a defensive coordinator. And he has a good D coordinator in name, and maybe he's pretty good. But that last sequence, I played football. You got to do one or two things. You either got to be Wink Martindale, just blitz the hell out of that kid McCord, or you got to lay back and play a decent zone. How the hell did McCord throw a ball through 4 Notre Dame defenders? 4. That was absurd. That was a tough loss. That was a game that Marcus needed and Ryan Day needed. And I would have preferred that Ryan Day was just like, we did what we supposed to do. We get in his feelings about Lou Holtz, an 86-year-old man who hasn't coached a football game in 15 years, 20 years? Maybe longer than that. Come on, man. You're Ohio State. You have every resource that you need. You have the resume. You shouldn't be worried about Lou Holtz. Especially when you got to play the Michigans of the world, the Penn States of the world. You shouldn't be worried about Notre Dame. This is the one year that I thought that Notre Dame could actually get over on Ohio State. And they had everything going, and they came up short. That was a tough loss. Right says, how the hell does Notre Dame only have 10 defenders on the field the last play? I didn't know about that, but that's even more ridiculous. That was crazy. There's no way Notre Dame should have lost that game. I'm a quiet Notre Dame fan since I was a kid. And I'll tell you why. I was a kid watching sports with like no context, and the local channel in New York used to broadcast Penn State Notre Dame highlights. And I didn't really understand as like a 7, 8 year kid. I didn't understand how, like TV production producers would like put the highlights so if the team won, they were building that narrative. I had no idea. So I'm watching these highlight shows, and Notre Dame always won. I'll be like, wow, man, this is awesome. And I like their uniforms as well. And their history. I just like Notre Dame. And actually got a chance to go to Notre Dame and play them at the Conversational Center, looking at the Golden Dome on their campus. Pretty amazing to think that. I mean, you don't know the history of Notre Dame unless you know the history. I don't know the deep history about them, but you think, how did this mausoleum of a university wind up in the middle of middle America? I don't know the history, but it's a beautiful place. Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like to either play a football game there or watch a game. I don't have a bucket list, but that might be one of the things I would like to do. And Brian, I didn't know Notre Dame only had 10 players on the field that time. Crazy. Jimmy G looks bad. Yeah, you know what? I mean, you knew that he wasn't going to look like he did when he was with the 49ers because it's a different organization. Now, let's be honest. 2 or 3 of those picks tonight really didn't matter. He got the ball with 12 seconds left. What was he going to do? I mean, come on. And he also threw a pick late at halftime that I don't think really should matter that much. But he's not the same player that he was with the 49ers. He doesn't have the same team. Literally got one dominant wide receiver. Watching the Dallas Cowboys today made me take a step back and really appreciate Kyle Shanahan even more as an offensive coordinator. And then you look at the Miami Dolphins head coach, basically doing a lot of Kyle Shanahan stuff in his own style. The misdirection plays, the movement, it's really on a higher level. That Prescott, those dive plays to nowhere. I mean, and that gets blamed. I was like, well, Mike McCarthy, you wanted to call the plays, and that's what you call? I wasn't happy with Dallas's play calling. And then ESPN will break the tape down 1,000 times to show Dak in a bad light. I mean, give me a break, man. When you're that close to the end zone, what you should be doing? Running the football. And Dak has a problem throwing the ball over the middle. We know that. So why is he doing it? Why not mandate that he throws the ball into space and let the running backs do the job and run to the goal line? I don't like what they did to Willingham. What do you mean, Vicky? What do you mean? Explain that. What's crazy is Ohio State ran on the top gap with a missing defensive lineman. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Ryan Day needed that, man. I'm not really a big Ryan Day guy because he is the antithesis of the Jim Tressels of the world, the Urban Meyer. Those are Ohio-minded guys. I don't know where Ryan Day is from, but Ohio State has always been a physical football team. Physical. Running back you, plus USC. But you get my point. I mean, they punished teams. When Ohio State was getting over on Michigan, it's because they were inflicting their physical might on them. Not, and Ryan Day came in as the offensive genius. He did a great job as the offensive coordinator, designing plays and really getting the ball down the field. And that's all good. But you can never forget who you are or where you are. You're in middle America. And I don't think he's destined for success playing that style of football. But yeah, he said that was the most physical game that they played. If they can build on that, then maybe things will be okay. But he has to prove to me that's who he is as a football player. Okay, Vic, I got you now. Tyrone Willingham. Yeah, you know what? Everybody's not treated the same. I'm hesitant to say it was racism. He didn't get the same chances that Tommy Weiss did. That's for sure. Weiss was horrible after having one season. Now Willingham, they couldn't get him out of Notre Dame fast enough. And I didn't like it at the time because I have a Ty Willingham story. Ty Willingham actually gave me an interview. I interviewed Ty Willingham down at Stanford in his office. And the interview that I did never saw the light of day. It was pretty good, but it was on my demo tape, right? Check this out. My demo tape for interviews walking into a radio station was Dusty Baker and Tyrone Willingham. That's pretty good. So yeah, so I always rooted for Ty Willingham because he treated me well. Exemplary leader, and I'm sure he's helping people in many ways now that we don't know about. I know he was on the College Bowl selection committee. He still might be on that committee. He and Condoleezza Rice. So yeah, good guy, great man, and was not treated well at Notre Dame. That's true. My man Marco, my man Frank. I'm eating crow because Oregon kicked the Colorado off. Yeah, you know what? Yo, it's football, dude. It's football and sports. When I was preparing for this show this afternoon, with all of my countless notes and all of my facts and all the stuff that I do, and I only show you this. The reason why I do this is because, as I said before in previous shows, there's kind of a brother and a sisterhood for people who do any type of sports media content. And you guys know this, and you ladies know this. Anything you do, you got to work. And everybody is really, really meticulous. You got to come on and just kind of wing it. Good luck with that. You know, so I love doing the pre-work. I really do. As I said, when I was making my notes, thinking about all of the games that transpired, I thought about my experience in college. I lost the game by 32 points in the Garden to Iona. I mean, yes, you know, with my mom and my brother and my family in the stand, you know, on television. That was bad. So I know how it feels, man. And Colorado's going to be back. I just want them to win one of those big boy games that they're not supposed to win, because this afternoon, I was looking at it. I think they're going to win 8 games and maybe they can get 9. I mean, you guys might know the schedule better than I do, but I'm thinking Utah, UCLA, USC, I don't know what, in Washington. I don't know how many of those teams they play. If they play all of them, they can win one of those games, how big that is. I think they'll beat the other team that's supposed to beat. So, yeah, but Oregon did what they were supposed to do. Can you imagine if Dan Lanning loses to Colorado after Deion was talking, building his team up? And which is basically, Oregon should be Nike U. That's what it is. You know, I'm not jumping off the Colorado bandwagon one bit. It'll be interesting to see how that momentum that they gain either increases or shifts after losing the game. But I'm excited, man. I mean, I can't wait to see them stop it up against USC. Because I heard the commentators talking about USC's defense. People put numbers up against USC. As talented as they are offensively, and they're very talented. Arizona State could not even stop them from doing nothing. They did whatever they wanted to do. Now, here's the downside of Williams, Caleb Williams. As talented as he is, he can get sloppy sometimes. Because I think he's really not being challenged. Like in the Big Ten, you got to play possession to possession. You got to play big boy football. In the Pac-12, the way they sling it out here, there's always this notion that we can come back. Let's just get the ball back and we'll score. It's a different style of football, and I'm thinking about him now as a next level prospect, being a future number 1, number 2, number 3 pick. He's gonna have to be tight. He really is. Switching to the NFL, is it time for the Vikings to trade Cousins to the Jets? I don't think so. I think that their coach, I like their coach actually, Arnold. I think that it isn't like they're getting blown out. So I would have to see signs of them actually quitting before I would even consider that. Now, there's no money on the books for Cousins. If you were the Jets, what are you willing to give up? I mean, who's the backup quarterback in Minnesota? I don't know who that player is. I assume he's not as good as Cousins. You cannot give up on that season. Those fans up there love that team. That's the beauty of the NFL, right? It is literally a game-to-game, year-to-year proposition. You better play and coach every game like your life is dependent on that. So, I don't think Cousins is the problem. I don't think he's a problem. I think the problem was not re-signing Cook. That was a problem. Allowing money to get in the way of what's best for your football team. And I can only imagine the conversation that the owners had, because it looks like collusion to me. I don't know if it is, but it looks like collusion. It really does. Are the Vikings better without Dalvin Cook? No, not even close. Not even close. And from a player's perspective, when you see the organization making decisions that are based on money and not what's based on what's best for the team, that has to piss you off. So, I don't think they're there yet. I thought that Jameis Winston might have been a viable option for the Jets. And I'm a Jameis Winston guy. I like Jameis Winston. But the fact that Derek Carr got hurt and Jameis came in, and Jameis Winston is a good player to me. He still doesn't quite get it in terms of, where he should be throwing the football. That guy's a high-level player. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. National champ. Did he win the Heisman? I don't know. He won a national championship. I know that. But yeah, and even Jameis did a great job today, put his team in a position to win, and they lost. It's not his fault. I would have loved to see Jameis quarterback in the Jets, but that's not going to happen now because he's going to be playing for New Orleans. Give me another name. If you got another name out there, I'd love to hear it. If I'm the Jets, I'm giving up 2 first-round picks for Cousins. Wow. Wilson isn't it. The problem with the Vikings is they need to pay Jefferson next year. Yeah, I hear you. I can't give up 2 first-round picks. I can't do that. Yeah. Because the margin of error is pretty close. And even if Cousins is not playing quarterback, I'm an old school cat in that I still think you can win football games like the Arizona Cardinals are winning football games. Josh Dobbs, he's been around for a while. I think it's like his 4th or 5th year. He's playing good football. He's being coached up. The there's something to their new coach because they're playing for him in ways that they haven't played for Kingsbury and some previous coaches in the world. As bad as Dallas played, I think you have to give Arizona a lot of credit because they played good football, and they did it with Josh Dobbs. So, all right. What? Yeah. Cousins, they'd be lucky to get a third-round pick for him. And because there's really no money on the board, he's on the right side of 30. Good player, but I think a third-round pick would be something that the Jets would give up, even if they didn't quite want to. But he could save their season. There's no doubt about that. He's a good player, but I think Minnesota's going to ride with him. I want to send a shout out to my man Zeke Elliott, man. Big Zeke guy. And I mean, he had 80 yards today, 16 carries. Think about Zeke. Zeke is a team guy. And when he didn't have a high average, everybody was focusing on his money with the Cowboys. He still had 12 touchdowns last year. Who do you think they would be giving the ball to down deep in the red zone? Zeke. So I'm happy for him to get back. And that was great. And the Belichick is such a good coach. He's going to use him to grind wins out. Good for Zeke. Ryan says, the Jets have a solid roster, but the quarterback isn't it. We got to get competent quarterback. Their season will be saved. If they get a competent quarterback, this season will be saved. Yeah, or be different, It seems like they're still running the same offense that they have planned to run for Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think it's going to work. Now, can they just go to a run-oriented offense? No, I don't think they can do that, but they can be a little more creative, maybe pick out the box. It's tough right now, man. You look at that division, New England is better than people probably thought they was going to be. I think Bill O'Brien has made a difference. Zeke has made a difference. And Mac is playing better. So you got Miami, right? You got Buffalo. You got New England. So it just shows you how tough that division is. That's not going to the playoffs. Unless they get a quarterback that kind of blows all of us away. Kirk Cousins for a first-round pick, one. Don't think about two. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do that. Vicky says, Buffalo played well this week. Yeah, Buffalo's good. Buffalo's really good. And Dalvin's brother is playing well. Josh is, come on, man. So I'm not surprised. Buffalo's going to be there. They got too many weapons. They got too much talent not to be one of those teams at the end who could go deep in the playoffs. And, they're holding out their best pass rusher. He's going to come back at some point this year. I would like to see Buffalo win. I'm a big Jim Kelly guy. And to think that they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and didn't win any of them. They passed the bill for a new stadium. They're going to be there for a while. I'd like to see Buffalo challenge, represent the AFC. They're good enough. And that window closes so fast. It really does. It really does. And it's a year proposition. Look at what the Texans did Jacksonville. D'Amico Ryans is going down there saying, you know what, I didn't come here to lose. And TJ Stroud, I like Bryce Young better, but I have to admit that Carolina looked a lot different today with Walton playing quarterback than they did with Bryce the first couple of weeks. The Bryce numbers were not horrible, but I think Walton, he just stood in the pocket and he delivered the football. And he anticipated, the pain, the physicality that was going to happen in the pocket. And he did a hell of a job. So I saw Bryce on the sidelines looking intently. I hope that he learned from the sideline watching the Red Rockets do his thing, because they were very competitive against Seattle. Seattle's a team who I think you got to watch out for. I mentioned them a couple of weeks. They're good. They're really good. They're solid. I think they'll give the 49ers a really, really good run, both home and away. They're solid, man. And talk about a reclamation project. Geno Smith is one of the biggest come-up stories that we've literally ever seen in the NFL. And I love it, man. He's not only playing good football as a quarterback, but he's a leader of the team. I got a big Geno up. Let's have a win now roster. It's a bold move, but to stay relevant in the NFL, you have to make bold moves. The Jets are a Super Bowl contender again if they have Cousins instead of having Wilson at QB1. You might be right, but think about that for a second. Now, can they fit Cousins under the salary cap? I don't know the machinations of the NFL salary cap. I don't know. Can they do that? He's clearly a one-year rental because presumably Aaron Rodgers is coming back, or here's the other part. The Jets would draft another quarterback, in this year's draft. And ideally, if you're drafting a quarterback now, based on what we've seen over the past couple of years, you're not in a hurry to throw that guy out there. So imagine having Aaron Rodgers coming back next year and having your future QB1 waiting in the wings and learning from him. Because Zach Wilson, let's be honest, not many people even thought he was going to TV. And while he might have a career as a backup quarterback in the NFL, I think he probably will. He's not somebody who the Jets have long-term faith in. So I think Kirk Cousins is a good name, but if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not giving up my starting quarterback. I'm not doing that. Especially when, look at that division. Look at the division. You got Detroit, who's good. Green Bay, they're evolving. And who's the other team in that division? Chicago. I mean, come on. So no, I think Minnesota still feels that they can right the ship and turn their season around. And I think they can also, because I think that the winner of that division is probably going to win 11 games. Probably 11-6. I can't see anybody in that division winning 12 games. Maybe Detroit. But I don't think so. I think the winner of that division is going to be 11-6. And I think Minnesota still has an opportunity to do that, because it's not like they couldn't score. They're scoring the football. They're putting points up. I want to talk about Justin Fields. A lot of drama. Now, if they get to a point where they give up on this kid, based on the fact that they could have had CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, that's just bad management to me. I think what they need to do is draw the conclusion that at this stage of his career, Justin Fields is not a drop-back quarterback. He's not. He's an option quarterback, right? Just like the way the Baltimore developed Jackson, they need to do the same thing with Justin Fields. Will he get hurt? Probably, yeah. But he's going to be able to utilize his talent. Dropping back 20, 25 times a game, throwing the ball down the field, that's not something that he's capable of doing right now. He's not. It's a totally different experience than at Ohio State, where he barely got touched. Most of these guys come out of college and they've never been hit. You know, he's being rushed every play now. And even despite getting blown out by KC, I thought Chicago continued to play. And I was inspired by that. Now, I think Justin really maybe was able to build some allegiances among his teammates because he continued to play. The coach didn't take him out. He played the whole game, and I like that. And late in the third quarter, early fourth, he started to get some runs. And he started to really attack the defense without any fear or any trepidation. And I think that's just how they got to play. I don't know how many games they can win, but I think that they can really start to build a identity and play tough-minded football. I think they can win that way. He's a totally different player than Justin Love at this stage. But, you know, to look at him as a guy who is a bust, I'm not willing to go there. I just don't think that they're using him correctly. I think he was trying to allude to that when they asked him what was going on, and he said possibly coaching because he knows what he can do. You know, and he has a good arm. I think that he will develop as a quarterback. But right now, I would have all run-pass options for him. That's what I would do because they can't protect him the way he needs to be protected. So, interested in getting your thoughts on that. Miami Dolphins. Wow. Remember a couple of years ago, people were saying that they didn't know if Tua was going to have an NFL career. And I know some people was basically saying that because that he was being injured. But some people actually doubted his ability to play quarterback. I was like, did you see this dude at Alabama? Tua is tremendously accurate. The ball comes out of his hands real fast. He's a student of the game. I love how Miami is playing football right now. I don't know if their style is sustainable because I think as you get deeper and deeper into the regular season, you know, they're not going to play every game in Miami. I think that the weather will, at some point, play a role in their success. But when they play at home in warm weather, they're almost impossible to stop. And I'm loving that right now. I really am. I put out a tweet a week ago, not disrespecting Deshaun Watson, but really challenging him. Just saying, yo, you got the ball, dude. $230 million guaranteed. Playing quarterback. You got a black GM who is the guy who was instrumental in bringing you to Cleveland. You know, you got a coach who I like, who I think is on to something that needs you to play good football. And finally, he went out today and looked like a top 10 caliber player. And I was just happy to see that for him. Because you know what the narratives would have been this week had he not played well. So that was good to see. Anybody see that Florida State Clemson game? Clemson outplayed Florida State. And they didn't win. Field goal kickers bother me, man. I want to see a kicker go out on the field and just make kicks. I don't want to see kickers miss any kicks. Like Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould barely ever missed a kick. The Baltimore Ravens kicker barely ever misses. It bothers me because that is the game. As a coach, you can say, you know what, we did a lot of things well. We did a lot of things wrong, excuse me. We don't want to let one play dictate whether or not we were successful. But in football, that is the case. You know, it's a field goal. If the kicker at Clemson makes the field goal, they win. If the kicker from New Orleans makes the kick, they win. That's tough being a football coach when you're relying on field goal kickers to win games, unless they make it. So that kind of bothered me today. It really did. Guess what? NBA training camps are opening up for the most part around October 2nd. That's how close we are to the start of the NBA season. And can't wait. Can't wait for that. I can't imagine. Well, I guess it could happen. But there's a reason why there's been more intensity in the Damian Lillard talk. Can you imagine Damian Lillard going to media day, donning a Portland Trailblazers uniform, talking about the season and all the wonderful things? Talk about awkward, right? All of the NBA promos that they do, you know what I'm saying? So I think Adam Silver's like, yo, come on, y'all. What's going to happen? You know, do you want a disgruntled player in your organization? I don't think you do. So I think that the quote NBA insiders coming out saying that other teams are involved in the Damian Lillard trade talks was analogous to turning the heat up on the stove. They said, yo, let's get this done. You know, because that's not a good look for the NBA. It's going to be really awkward to have Damian Lillard show up day one, still a member of the Portland Trailblazers organization, doing interviews about him not being in Portland, wearing their uniform, stuff like that. So hopefully this week something will happen. I've also been reflecting on the Golden State Warriors deciding not to sign Dwight Howard. And the more I think about it, the more I think that it has a lot to do with money. I'm glad I'm not an NBA insider. I wouldn't want to be an NBA insider. And I'm going to tell you why. If you are an NBA insider and you got people within organizations that tell you stuff, guess what? You are compelled to say exactly what they told you. Even if you think it's BS. You cooked. If you don't repeat almost verbatim what they said to you, you're cut off. I don't want that job. The more I think about it, I just think to myself, why are these organizations telling these quote NBA insiders all this information? And I think that they're probably analogous to, to plants, industry plants in hip hop or in the music industry. You got to have those people. And I guess you're chosen. I don't want to be that person. I would never want that job. Never. Not enough money. Do you know what the NBA tournament is going to consist of? Does the winner of the tournament get a bye for the playoffs? Every team that's eligible to be in the tournament, Vicky, I don't think they get an NBA bye. I don't know. Maybe we have somebody in the audience who knows more of the details about the tournament. I just focused on where it is. It's going to be in Vegas. And I think each player gets, I believe, $500,000. I was focused on that because that's a lot of money. And it was going to happen anyway. But in terms of getting a bye for the playoffs, I don't think so. But based on your question, I'm going to research it tomorrow, and maybe I'll put something out there. But I know it's going to be in Vegas, and I know the players will get some money, and it might help them in some respects. Now, here's the scary thing. I don't think they've talked about how that tournament's going to be broadcast yet. And Friday night, when I was preparing to do this show, I was checking the dial of all of the various sports outlets that I have, right? And I pay a lot of money for cable. I'm one of those people who still have cable. I know, I'm crazy. The Giants were on Apple TV. I don't have that service. So I couldn't watch the Giants. Blew me away. And I immediately started thinking, is this something that's going to happen in the NBA? Something tells me that it probably will. Because the NBA is going for the biggest bag that they can possibly get. And they've kind of alluded to bringing in some more broadcasters that are probably not a part of the network of broadcasters now. So you start thinking about that. Okay, you got NBC. You know, they're a major brand. Can't see Fox getting down. Can't see that happening. But I could see NBC. And then you got the Googles of the world, the Apples, you know, some of those app entities that could step up and get a piece of the package. So it just pisses me off that I would have to go out and get Apple TV to watch a Warrior game or watch any other. I mean, if it's the Indiana Pacers or some other teams I don't really care that much about, then I probably wouldn't get it. But you got an NBA ticket, right? Which I don't have. I don't have that either. But I was thinking about getting that. But the thing that I could potentially have to buy Apple TV, that doesn't make me feel good. And Vicky, you were talking about the injuries of the tournament. You know what? The injuries that could potentially happen in the tournament don't concern me as much, simply because whether they're playing games in a tournament or they're playing games, they're still playing games. So I don't know how that would increase the number of injuries. Because one of the things that I do know is they're decreasing the number of regular season games in the traditional format to play in the tournament. So I think it's still going to be 82 games. So I don't think that's going to change. They're not going to play more games in the regular season because of the tournament. They're going to reduce that number and then add those games to the tournament so it will basically remain the same. So I think they were pretty pragmatic in thinking about that. I was pretty hyped up thinking about that 49er Cowboy game in a couple of weeks down in Levi. I'm not really excited about that game now. Based on what I saw from Dallas today, I'm not excited anymore. Losing Trayvon Diggs obviously is a big loss for the Cowboys, but I thought that they could scheme enough to the point where it wouldn't be as big a loss. Those DBs today look lost. They don't have a number one corner. They don't. You know, and yeah, I see the Cowboys making the playoffs, but being a serious contender in the NFC, I don't see it. The 49ers are clearly the best team. Clearly the best team. We'll see what Philly looks like as the season evolves. But who else is in the NFC? Seattle's good, but Seattle's not going to beat. Seattle's not going to have more wins than the 49ers. I could very easily see Seattle winning one of those regular season games and coming in second in the division. But I still would take the 49ers as the favorite to represent the NFC. But watching the Cowboys today was definitely a downer. And I'm not even really a Cowboy fan. I'm not a Cowboy hater, though. I'm a Dak fan. I like Dak to be successful. I guess because so many people don't like Dak. One of the bright spots of the weekend for me, I mentioned this on Friday, was to see why Nick Saban is such a great football coach. We grew up with football legends in our minds because they become a part of football folklore, the Vince Lombardis of the world, the Errol Parseekers of Notre Dame, the Bo Schembechlers, the Woody Hayeses, and all those folks, the Bear Bryants. But you know what? They're going to be saying the same thing about Nick Saban. Now, I became aware of Nick Saban when he was the head coach at Michigan State. And, he was very Ohio State-ish, Michigan-ish at Michigan State. He's just a station-to-station fundamental football coach. And I love what he did this weekend. He told Tommy Rees, he said, Tommy, I'm going to take my football team back, right? Whatever you had going on in Notre Dame, all right, you're going to have to adjust that and play Alabama football. This is how we win. This is how we won for 50 years, longer than that. They gave the ball back to Jalen Monroe, and they can start playing station-to-station football, and that's how they're going to win this year. Will they win a national championship? Probably not, but who knows? But putting the emphasis on the quarterback for Alabama to have success is not how they have traditionally played football. They just had a great run having pro-caliber quarterbacks, but that's not how Alabama plays football. They inflict their physical will on teams. I knew they were not losing to Ole Miss. I knew that. No way in hell. And I think other teams are going to experience the same thing playing against Alabama. They'll probably score 24 to 30 points a game. They're not going to just blow teams out like they have in the past. They're still going to win. And it's because of Nick Saban. Brian says, I'm more excited for the 49ers Cardinals game plan after today. Yeah, you know what? Hollywood Brown, said that he wanted to leave Baltimore, and people were like, well, you're not really doing anything in Baltimore, even though he did have 1,000 yards there. But you know what? He's looking like that number one receiver again. And James Conner, John? I think it's James Conner. If Pittsburgh could have a redo, he had one bad year in Pittsburgh, and he was gone. That dude has been very consistent for Arizona. I'm really impressed with Josh Hobbs. Now, we've heard about how smart he is. He's an astrophysicist and all of that, which is interesting because he got there a couple of weeks before the season started, which meant that he probably was able to grasp a majority of the playbook relatively quickly to the extent that he's a starter. Well, that's good on him. But he's evolving into a decent quarterback. He looks a lot like Geno Smith. Not spectacular, not awesome, but he makes really good football plays. So I would agree, Brian. I think Arizona can hang with the 49ers, but the 49ers wide receivers, the way they go and get the ball, I haven't seen that in a while. I've seen like a player or two. Like Cincinnati has some wide receivers that are really, really talented in terms of going in the air and getting the football. The Chargers have wide receivers like that, Mike Williams and players like that. But the 49ers right now, I think, have the best core set of wide receivers to go get the ball. And I think that separates them from most teams because Brock Purdy does not have to be perfect. All he has to do on the deep ball is throw the ball in the vicinity, and more times than not, the 49ers receivers come down with the ball. And we all know Kittle's catch rate. Kittle has the widest catch range of any tight end in the NFL. So they're a juggernaut right now. We haven't even talked about defense. Brian Iglesias, I think the Cowboys thought they just had to show up to win the game. And that's good for the 49ers. Can't sleep on them. Nah, man, you're absolutely right. And you would expect that the 49ers would have a slip up as well. Even if they came out with the intent of trying to do everything right. It's just football. And it's the reason why I don't bet, right? It's the reason why I don't gamble. Can you imagine how many people took the Cowboys today and lost money? That's why Vegas wins. I mean, you don't have any betting tickets now. I don't know what slam your computer, you're betting online. I'm not quite sure what happens. But can you imagine having money on that Cowboy game and seeing Arizona go out there and just kick their butts like that? That was bad news, man. What was most impressive to you all today? I'm going to talk about something really quickly that I'm sure not many people care about. But the Connecticut Sun throttled my New York Liberty today in the first game, in the best of 5 in the WNBA. And I knew it was going to kind of happen. I didn't know it was going to happen. I thought it could happen because Connecticut is more physical. So the only point about that game is New York Liberty needs to step up. They need to recognize that this is big girl basketball now. All those beautiful assists, those three-pointers. No. The referees are not going to bail you out. They're not going to call fouls because teams are playing you more physically. No, you got to go out and earn it. And I'll say this about the WNBA. Never in their history have they had 4 teams that are capable of winning championship. And they do this year. Connecticut Sun, New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces, and the Dallas Wings. All 4 of those teams are capable of winning. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right? Giant fans, I want to ask you a question. What do you make of this season? When we were talking about baseball at the start of the season, the consensus was they were 500. Even without the young players coming up and, having a nice run, we thought ultimately this team would be 500. Certainly no more than 85 wins. Right? So how do you as a fan, I'm not a Giant fan, not a Giant hater. I like to see them do well in Northern California. But as a Giant fan, if there are any Giant fans out there, how do you feel about this season? I looked it up a couple of days ago. The Giants are 17th in attendance. They average 30,000 fans a game. They're going to draw 2.5 million this year, right? Which means they made money. $30K out there every game. I mean, I turn the television on, and people are smiling, having fun, great weather this summer. I'm just trying to think, is that okay? There's a lot of people who can't stand Kapler, don't like the general manager, and I'm just saying to myself, what is the level of expectation for this team? Because the Yankees are pissed. Yankee fans are mad. They're upset. Now they have a much bigger payroll, but there's something about the expectation of winning. I've never felt that the Giants have been adamant about winning. I just never have. Not to the extent that it was an expectation as opposed to just something that happened. Now, obviously, when you have a manager like a Dusty Baker, you're going to win. If he's about winning. Or if you have a manager like a Bruce Bochy, then yeah, of course you're going to win. Those are winners. But I think that was more of a result of who they were as people as opposed to the organization making a statement about where they wanted to go every year. Frank said it's human nature to have a down game. The thing with the Niners is that they have too many all-pro veterans on this team to trick off any game or overlook someone. They know every game is important. You know what? You're absolutely right. But let's give the coaching staff and the general manager some credit also. Kyle Shanahan is the son of a two-time winning Super Bowl champion, right? So he's all about winning. That's all he knows. He grew up in a football family. So as adamant as those players are, and they have consummate pros on that 53-man roster. But I have to give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit. Wilkes, you know how proud this guy is, what a proud black coach this guy is. Wilkes has been fired twice as a head coach in the NFL, basically for no reason. You think he's not they got great coaches on that staff. The Arizona Cardinals fired Wilkes after one season. And then last year, he was the interim coach of the Carolina Panthers. And then the second half of the year, they were balling. And I think he had a reasonable expectation that he might get that job. He didn't get the job. So, John Lynch, I've been following John Lynch since his days at Stanford. He was all about winning. So I think everybody in that organization, they have a lot of the 49ers also have a lot of former players around the organization who've always won. So I think they have an expectation to win. I mean, when you look at some of the coaches that they hired who didn't win, those hires seem really, really strange at this point. It really does. Vicky says, the Giants made me mad. They make money and don't spend money. Yeah. You're right, but we got to give them a big up for not signing homeboy of the Houston Astros, who's in Minnesota right now. Plays for the Twins. I can't think of his name. It's been 6 months. But imagine if the Giants had signed him. He's had a terrible year by the standards of the salary that he was going to command. So maybe that's just the Giants doctors. Maybe we shouldn't have given the organization credit for that. I don't know. But I think you look at things differently when you're a casual baseball fan. I thought the Giants were decent this year. Not spectacular, but I don't have real high expectations for them. We know that they're about making money. They are. It's frustrating. I'm taking a step back from baseball because of what has happened in Oakland with the A's. That is a travesty. I can't believe that a professional organization like Major League Baseball, with the history of this sport, Jackie Robinson, come on, man, Reggie Jackson, Ricky Henderson, and they allowed this owner to let that team leave? Are you kidding me? That's a stain on Major League Baseball. Not only just the A's, because they could have kicked that owner to the curb. They could have snatched that team. The owners don't have to vote on him relocating from Oakland to Vegas. They could have solved that problem. Same way that David Stern did with the Sacramento Kings. I'm disgusted by it. I really am. And guess what? I've been thinking about it because do you guys know how upsetting it must be for the surface, the Raider fans, to see 40% of that stadium in Vegas be filled with Pittsburgh Steelers fans? What do you think baseball's going to look like? It's going to be a bunch of ghosts there. Are you kidding me? Sometimes, you would think that people who have 9,000 degrees and MBAs, they actually could think critically, but a lot of them can't. Baseball in Vegas for the A's from a sporting perspective, is going to be a disaster. It really is. Will it make some money? I don't know. Possibly. But from a sporting standpoint, it's not going to work. It's going to be absolutely horrendous. And I get the Raiders moving because they had a clear bazooka bag to claim. And by all accounts, they're doing extremely well financially. That part is going to work. But where's the culture? Where's like the fan base? I mean, you know what it looks like? It looks like Family Feud or like some game show. You know, that's what it looks like. It has like this incredible studio. You know, you have two teams that kind of look familiar to what we know. Maybe you'll have like an old school player show up every now and then. It's a beautiful stadium. But do this iteration of the Raiders play with the heart that we become accustomed to? No, they don't. I mean, maybe I'll show up to a game at some point because the stars are aligned. I'm not interested. I don't have any burning desire to go watch the Raiders play in Vegas. I don't. Giants were 12 games above 500, second in the division, leading the wild card race by more than a game. Now they're fourth in the division and out of the playoff race. It has been an epic collapse. Yes, it has. But Brian, I think you know, I know, and most people know who follow the Giants. For them to sustain that, they would have had to be miraculous. They don't have a definitive all-star everyday player on the roster. They don't. How you gonna win? And they play the Dodgers every year, the last series at the end of the year. So, I mean, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. They went 12 games. I was drinking it. It's like, at least they can maybe sneak into the wild card. Wow. What an accomplishment for this team of basically no name. Relatively speaking. You know, we all know Crawford. We all know the guy that got from the Dodgers, left-handed hitter. You know, but I don't see Mookie Betts, man. You know, I don't see players like that. And that's what I want to see. And I don't think that you sign those players in free agency to come to San Francisco. Now, maybe those guys are in the farm system, and I'm just not in tune enough to know who they are. But I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. Because I don't see those guys coming up. One of the most enjoyable things for me about watching the Giants broadcast is listening to Hyper and Kruko. I enjoy that because their stories, their knowledge of baseball, I always learn something. I enjoy listening to the broadcasters more than I like watching the team play. And I like their pitchers. I mean, the Giants historically have always done a phenomenal job developing pitchers. And they still do. But watching them play every day, I don't get excited because they don't have players who can carry the team. They don't. I mean, think about the Jeff Kent and Barry Bonds days. Those guys carried the Giants. Richard Aurelius, people like that. I mean, they got on roles where they had players that other teams wanted. Giants don't have those players. They don't. So I couldn't put an algorithm to spit out the number of wins that I knew that they would have at the end of the year, but I thought it would be between 81 and 85. They might reach that number or come up just a little short. But I'm not emotional about the Giants. I'm just not. I also wanted to talk briefly about kind of a non-sports story, if you will. There's been a lot of stuff on the internet still because people are still talking about Max Kellerman essentially being fired from State because Stephen A. didn't want him anymore. And it started, really, everything hit the fan when T.O. was on the show. And T.O. told Stephen A. that Max Kellerman was blacker than he was. Now, T.O. said that he did it tongue-in-cheek. But in that arena, at that moment, you knew that was a death knell. You knew how Stephen A. was going to take it. And I'm sure Max didn't probably like it either. You know, so any angst that was there between those two, for whatever reason, maybe it's just in terms of how the show flowed, that was going to be a problem. Because everything that Stephen A. has done as a professional television personality is to be bigger than he is. You know, it's to be this behemoth of a personality. And to have another black man tell you that you're not even black, that you're not as black as the white guy sitting next to you, we knew how that was going to turn out. Now, I said that I didn't have a problem with Max Kellerman not being on the show for this particular reason. Max didn't necessarily want to debate about sports on a sports show. And sometimes when he would talk about basketball, I think he would feel that he was like on Around the Horn or his show, This Just In, which he was great on. But he would say a lot of things about basketball that people who know basketball would be like, wait a minute, you know, what's up with that? And I think that's one of Stephen A.'s strong suits. So I didn't know about all of the other stuff, you know, surrounding issues related to blackness or how much street cred either one of those guys had on the street. I didn't know about that. Now, Marcellus Wiley is Max Kellerman's guy, and he raved about Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman is a real dude, and he's not a plant. You know, he's a guy who has real opinions about things beyond sports, and sometimes he would talk about those things in a very articulate and engaging way. And there's some talk about how that didn't sit too well with Stephen A. I don't know about that. You know, I just kept it about sports. I thought when Max went to his show, This Just In, it was in his wheelhouse. It was kind of a rundown of the daily events of sports, very surface level, bringing in people, comment, another comment, back to a commercial. Nobody's really challenging each other. I thought he was great at that. So I just wish they would let it die. I don't think he was best at First Take. I think their ratings have been a lot higher since he hasn't been on the show. But there was this conversation around Stephen A. wanted a, quote, white guy to share that perspective where he could talk about, you know, the black perspective. And that wasn't who Max was. I don't know if that was the case, but Max is not that guy. Max is a thoughtful person who has a varied group of friends and people who he engages with. As I was leading up to this show, you know, Max Kellerman used to be not just a rapper, but a serious rapper. I watched his video. Max Kellerman had skills. He probably still does. This is not like some fly-by-night. No, this guy can rap. He's a serious artist. He really was. So, you know, interesting topic. I think T.O. wanted to jab Stephen A., and he put that out there. And it's keeping Max's name in the media, where I think he probably would say, you know what, I moved on. keep my name out of it. And then the last thing I'll say about that is I don't like to see when, particularly black, because you don't see it a lot among people of other ethnicities. There's always like this tenor of violence. Oh, when I see you, it's gonna be on. On what? 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 Are you gonna fight in the street? I mean, dude, come on, man. I don't like to see that because you're never gonna win that. Particularly at this stage of the game. When you become a personality, when you become somebody who people know, who's making X amount of dollars, you're gonna look really foolish trying to take any disagreement that you have with another individual to a street level. It's not gonna work. And it's gonna be bad for you. It's gonna be real bad for you. You know? And we've just seen things in the hip hop world recently where there was some altercation with a gun that ultimately ended with somebody in jail. So, you know, talk it out. If someone says something to me that I don't like and I have an opportunity to respond, then I should be able to respond intelligently to them without, again, insinuating or implying that somehow we're going to have to take it to another level. That's very small to me. Even if you say that it affects your character, it's not an appropriate response to me to dealing with conflict. It's not. I don't like to see that. Miraculous, I don't necessarily agree with you on that. If they were average at best coming down the stretch, they would still be in the wild card race. Another fog would fire them for the collapse. Okay. That's your perspective. And again, when I look at their personnel, I don't see the type of players that can carry them. And I think that, you know, the Atlanta Braves or some of these other teams, like Houston is struggling right now. Houston might not even make the playoffs, which is crazy to me, losing games to Kansas City. It tells you how crazy baseball is. But for the Dodgers to get over against the Dodgers, for the Giants to beat the Dodgers at the end of the year, I think that they would be miraculous. I didn't expect to see this colossal collapse, but and I am surprised they played so badly. And yes, they're that close to making the playoffs, which speaks to the mediocrity of like that third wild card team of that race. Maybe miraculous might be the wrong word, but again, based on the fact that I only thought they were going to win 81 games this year, I didn't necessarily know how that was going to pan out, if they would be hot at the end of the year, strong at the start. I didn't know. I just knew that when I look at that team, they were going to win between 81 and 85 games. Now, the Giants might fire them simply because the fans collectively don't like them. But if you look at the level that you would evaluate a manager, profit, fans showing up, I would think that would factor in. And maybe I'm off base, but I don't think so. And they won at least half their games. They don't have one legitimate everyday all-star on the team. Not one. Ooh. They don't. But I love it when we disagree. It's all good. I think I mentioned that, I mentioned that Media Day is in a week or so. My last point about the Golden State Warriors, just the fact that they brought Dwight Howard in sent a message saying that we don't feel that we're quite big enough. I think the Warriors will be better this year than they were last year, but I'm still having visions of Anthony Davis just going through those guys last year. If it's not Dwight Howard, and I get it, I think it came down to not guaranteeing him I think it came down to them not giving him a guaranteed contract. That's what I think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. If they signed him to a non-guaranteed contract, then they had the flexibility to cut him. If I'm Dwight Howard, the future Hall of Famer, 8-time All-Star, I'm not going for that. So I get it. But I think that they need another big guy. Saric, yeah, he's good. He's not that imposing defensive post defender that they need. Even with Draymond, as good as Draymond is, we saw what happened in the playoffs. So I think 4th or 5th seed is what the Warriors will be, but their aspirations are like the San Francisco 49ers. They expect to challenge for a championship. And I'm a little salty right now simply because I think they need another big guy. So we're all over the map tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to think about that Giant comment a little more, Brian, and maybe do some research on that. Hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter, Twitter. If you like the show, you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it's all good. In fact, you listen, I really appreciate it. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to get out of here. Success and getting paid is the manifestation of the whole process. If you're the individual, don't do things to help other people make their lives better. As far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend and a good start to your week. Be safe. And I'll talk to you in a couple of days as we do another In the Dungeon show. Thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all. Good night.